Safina Hussain is the founder of Educate Girls, and she said to us as funders, how do we create a relay and not a race for funding? Because today we are creating so much more of a race. And Alix and Mandira and Kristen, we've talked about this so much as it relates to Water Equity's global fund and the current race there for capital to provide direct access to safe water and sanitation supply solutions in these emerging economies. 600 million people in these emerging markets could be served with this access if microloans were made available today. And that represents an $18 billion market opportunity, which has demand to match that. And economists estimate that solving this global water and sanitation crisis by 2030 carries what we've heard already, a $1 trillion price tag. So seeing this opportunity, right, we said, okay, we're going to do this $10 million equity investment because it would unlock an additional, not only because it has all of the impact given the opportunity, but also it unlocks $100 million in institutional capital funding from the U.S. International Development Finance Corporation, the USDFC. That's what catalytic capital means, right? And this is coming with an investment that builds on 10 years of a relationship with water.org, from which Water Equity spun out from. We had a front row seat to the evolving work and impact of Water Equity and water.org. And along the way, we seeded Water Equity's first fund, which proved out the viability of this kind of model, then a second larger one, and now this global fund at this scale. And while change is hard to measure when we're talking about systems change, in this case, Water Equity's investments had demonstrated 4 years of a strong track record and had already impacted 1.6 million people. And so to us, it felt like this is a slam dunk. This is what we're talking about. This is what philanthropy, that catalytic risk capital is all about. And we thought it would be so easy to bring along other foundations, and that wasn't the case. We found resistance and barriers, and I know you've lived this, Alix, in so many ways that made the path of bringing along other foundations a difficult one. And those were just the conversations that we were a part of. And I know the Water Equity team heard so many more no's. So if we as funders and philanthropy can come back to the core of our why, then perhaps we can reevaluate the how in our work. And we've discussed it here, but it's also important to consider the who, right? We're trying to lean into the collective and urgent challenges of our time. And doing so means supporting more of these proximate grant makers and social innovators. And it's been said already so beautifully that so many of these challenges disproportionately affect women. So they have the lived experience and the insights to shift these systems.